Okay, we're talking about powers, and when we talk about powers, we're talking about indices. Powers are used to help write expressions, which is kind of a mathematical sentence involving repeated multiplication of the same number in a simplified form. So if you had 8 times 8 times 8 times 8 times 8, that takes up a lot of space and it can kind of look confusing. And so we use 8 to the power of 5, and we say to the power of, and that tells us that in expanded form, it is actually 8 times 8 times 8. So to work this out or evaluate it, we would multiply 8 times 8, and then 64 times 8, and so on and so forth. So it's actually quite a big number if you look. The basic numeral as a power, when you write this out, you have a base number, in which case it's 8 here. And then you have the index number. So remember we were talking about bid mass in our previous life. Brackets, and we didn't have indices before, but now guess what? An index is the singular form of indices. So that's our index. So the base number is here, and the index number is that little number. Notice it's smaller and it's up. It's a superscript, if you want to know the right term for it, in typing. And then the basic numeral is you've evaluated it to find this out. So 8 times 8 times 8 times 8, how many 8s are there? 5 8s, will give us quite a large number, 32,768. And so when you read this out, something like this, so we've used pronumerals just to fill in generically. A to the power of B. It reads the base number A to the power of the index number B. So in expanded form, this would look like A times A times A times A, as many as you have B. So if it was A to the power of, what is this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you would have 10 A's. A times A times A 10 times. So remember, this is just a simpler way of writing out and really collecting information that makes a lot more sense. So just like we said about bid mass, powers take priority in the order of operations unless we're talking about brackets. So these are a big deal. If we have 3 plus 2 times 4 squared, what do we do first? We're actually going to square the 4. So we have 3 plus 2 times 4 squared is 16. So we work that out first, and then the second thing we do is 2 times 16, giving us 32, and the last thing we do is addition and subtraction. So there's nothing new under the sun there except that we work out the indices first, unless there are brackets. Simplify the following expression. So this is an expression by writing them in index form. So we're going to end up with an index. So 5 times 5 times 5 times 5, rather than working all that out, in index form, we write the base number 5, that's the number that's repeatedly multiplied, and we count how many there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is 5 to the power of 6. I made that look a little better, 5 being bigger and the 6 being smaller. Now this one we have a little bit of a connection. We've got a little bit of a pattern going. We have some 2's, and then we have some 3's as well. So how many 2's do we have? We have 2. So remember, in multiplication, we can put these in any order. So I'm going to reorganize this and put 2 times 2. You don't have to go through this step, but it helps me make sure I got them all right. Times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. So how many 2's do I have? 2. So I'm going to end up with 2 to the power of 2 times, how many 3's do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4. 3 to the power of 4, and that's how we say it. Okay, so here we go. Expand and evaluate the following terms. So here we go. 2 to the power of 4. Let's see, from what we know before, that is going to be equal to 2 times 2. That's 2 of them, 3 of them, 4. So we've expanded it. That's the first step, expand. 2 times 2 times 2. I've got 4 of them there, right? Okay. And then evaluate means to actually work it out. So 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16. So 2 to the power of 4 is equal to 16. Now this one here, we've got to do just a little bit more work. So 2 to the power of 3 is equal to 2 times 2 times 2. So that's the 3 2's, times 5 to the power of 2, 5 times 5. Okay. So let's do 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8. Times 5 is 40. Let me just write this down so I don't get totally lost. So I had 2 times 2 is 8 times 5 4. And 40 times 5 is 200. How did I do that so quickly? Because 4 times 5 is 20, and then I added that in there. So that works out to 200. Now, indices will come first. So we're just going to evaluate this one. So evaluate means that we don't have to expand it. You can if it makes your life easier. But I'm going to do 7 times 7, which gives me 49. I can do that in my head or with my calculator, 7 times 7. In fact, let's write it out. It doesn't say expand, but if you're putting this on a test, this will make it really clear. 7 times 7 is 49. 6 times 6 is 36. And 49 minus 36, I can work that off to the side if I need to, is 13. So 7 squared minus 6 squared is 13. Now this one's just a little bit more complicated, so we have 2 times 3 to the power of 3. So we'll get 2 times 3 times 3 times 3. Added to 10 to the power of 2, so that's 10 times 10. Added to 1 to the power of 7, which is, I know what you're thinking here, but let me write it out. 1 times 1, 2, 3, 6. So I got 7 ones there. All right, so what am I going to do first? I've worked out my indices. So now I'm on to division or multiplication or division, whichever comes first. So 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 3 is 18. 18 times 3 is, so I just had to work that off to the side. 18 times 3 is 54. And I'm going to keep my addition because I'm not going to do that operation until I do this. 10 times 10 is 100 plus, okay, what's 1 times 1? Well, that's 1. Times 1, well, that's 1. Times 1, well, that's, oh my god. So 1 to the power of anything that's not 0, so anything from 1 and above, is just going to be 1 burger. So then I just add these puppies together. 54 plus 100 plus 1 gives me 155. There you go. Have a lot of fun.